Water. Earth. Fire. Air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed and my brother and I discovered the new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Aang can save the world.
Hello again, welcome back to the Avatar Vlogs. This is episode 16, The Deserter. This is an okay episode, honestly. This is kind of one of those episodes that is a little undermined by an episode that comes later in this series, but we'll get to that in a second. So, Team Avatar are traveling along and they come across a kiosk which is not only advertising a firebending festival, which Aang sees as an opportunity to witness some firsthand firebending, since he is going to have to learn it eventually, but he also discovers that he's a wanted man. And alongside the wanted posters also include a man who used to be part of the Fire Nation army and the Blue Spirits. So Zuko's little attempt at rescuing the Avatar has now reached several communities in the Fire Nation. Also, I don't know if this was intentional, but I kind of feel like that kiosk bit was sort of their nod to One Piece. Maybe it's just because it's a wanted poster, or the fact that there's just a kiosk in the middle of the woods. I don't know, but that felt very One Piece-like. I can't explain it. It just felt like One Piece. But anyway, not important. So Team Avatar decides, despite the risks, they're going to go to this festival, which, honestly, if for nothing else, I like just because it kind of looks cool. It's another great example of Fire Nation architecture. It's kind of a chance to get a little bit of the culture, even though it is a little simplified. It's also one of the first times, I don't think exactly the first time, but it's one of the first times they show off some Fire Nation food. In this case, it's flaming fire flakes, which I'm sure you could make on your own. I think, honestly, if you just got like some crispy onion bits or corn flakes and you put like chili flakes and paprika or something on them, you could create the same thing. But again, I'm getting distracted. So let's just keep going. So they go to this Fire Nation festival, and Aang is outed after he saves Katara from a botched magic trick, and he's taken by this guy named Che to an encampment where there's an old Fire Nation general, or maybe it's an admiral, as Che says, who deserted the Fire Nation army, and because, he's gone rogue and he has no affiliation to the Fire Nation anymore, he could potentially be the best teacher to teach Aang firebending. Problem is, this guy really has zero interest in taking on any students, especially someone who is just a child like Aang, because they lack the discipline to be able to control fire. This is the first episode that really kind of delves not so much into the nature of the Fire Nation, but rather into the philosophy of fire bending, which from Jeong Jeong's level, this guy's name is Jeong Jeong, he sees it as a potentially extraordinarily dangerous element, which it is. It is that very much, but he sees fire only as this potential source of destruction, and that people who need to learn this need to learn how to control and master discipline before they can master the discipline of firebending, because it is so potentially dangerous. Aang, of course, being a kid, he doesn't really have a lot of interest in doing that sort of thing, so he just wants to jump ahead into all this advanced stuff, never realizing that it is going to have bad consequences. And meanwhile, Zhao's back. I do love how, like, every 3 episodes he comes back in, but, it's always nice to see him. He gets on the Avatar's trail, and he's tracking him down to Jeong Jeong's camp, where, not surprisingly, they'll have a bit of a confrontation. So, as far as episodes go, this one's a little basic. There's not a ton to it, aside from, again, the scene with the fire festival was kind of cool. It delves into a little bit of philosophy about firebending. There's a good fight at the end, but for the most part, story-wise, not a ton is accomplished here. It's it's just kind of an okay episode. It's not a bad episode. It's just kind of okay. There's nothing super noteworthy about it in really that many ways. The Fire Festival again looks nice. It's another re-emergence of Zhao. Jason Isaacs always does great. I will say though that this episode is not bad, but when you're a fan and you've been rewatching the show a lot, it's honestly kind of undermined ever so slightly by an episode that happens way later in the show, like way in season 3. Now I get what this show tried to do. It tried to show that fire is a potentially very dangerous element, but there's another episode in the show that really delves into how fire is not just a source of destruction, it's a source of life, and I feel that philosophy they did there is a lot smarter and a lot more complex in the teachings, whereas here it's just kind of basic, and I get what they're doing, but it's undermined ever so slightly by a much better philosophy that happens later. But it happens. Sometimes that just happens. Otherwise, it's an okay show. I guess while I'm here, I'll talk about the 2 guest stars. There's not a ton. There's only 2 of them, but the first, Jeong Jeong, is played by Jeong Jeong, and if you know the name Keone, he's Hawaiian. He's one of those actors who's popped up in a lot of stuff. Like, if you look up this guy's career, you've probably seen him in something, like a movie or especially TV. Like, the man does a lot of TV, but he's a very bit part actor. He doesn't really have a lot of starring roles. He just kind of will show up for an episode or two, and he did make an appearance previously in this show. He was the High Sage way back in the Winter Solstice episode, and he also plays Captain Lee, I guess. I don't know who that is in this. Maybe I'll find a picture and put it up. But yeah, Keone Young's been in this show a few times, though Jeong Jeong is by far and away his most famous bit. The one I really like, though, is John Kassir, which, if you can tell by the photo, is the Crypt Keeper himself. I'm sorry, I love doing the Crypt Keeper voice. That's such a great voice. But he plays the character of Che, who never appeared again in the show. This is literally his only appearance, but it is kind of funny. He does have 2 very good jokes I like. One is when he mentions how Jeong Jeong is the first man to ever leave the Fire Nation army and live through it, and he goes, "I'm the second, but you don't become a legend for that. But that's okay." That's kind of funny. That's just a funny little quirk. Like, he's just so chill about everything. But the other is that when Jeong Jeong evades the Fire Nation, because the episode ends with Zhao trying to capture Jeong Jeong again, and he disappears, Che comes back from running an errand, I guess, and he's like, "Okay, very funny, guys. Where is everyone?" Not knowing that the camp's been abandoned. And again, we never see him, so presumably he either hung around camp for the rest of his days, or I guess he found them eventually. Either way, John Kassir's in this episode. That's kind of cool. I don't know if he made an appearance after this, but just something of note. Excuse me, there it is. So, other than that, not really a lot to say about this episode. It's okay. It's kind of our first dive into Aang learning another bending element and some of the philosophies of the element, though Aang will not attempt to learn firebending until way later in season 3, so this was kind of the only time we'd see him bend fire for quite a while, so there's that. But yeah, other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, onwards and upwards, my friends.